And we're back, continuing our discussion on the collapse, why America and the West is collapsing. This reason is one that's in the news recently. Roe v. Wade is looking like it might be overturned, and people are up in arms, and there's all these changes that are going to be happening. So what are we talking about? We're talking about abortion. Now, why would this be a reason why a society might collapse? Well, if you think about just in regard to population, if you don't have a population, if people aren't having babies, then it's going to be tough for your population to continue on having the society that you have. People don't realize that it's a very fine line in regard to birth rate and death rate. If you don't have those numbers in balance, if you are not making enough babies and people are dying at a specific rate, I don't know the exact numbers, but you need to have a lot of kids per household to be able to balance out the death rate. Now, we do live longer and we do have a good lifespan, but it doesn't matter if you're not making enough babies, and people you're going to eventually die. And that's why, looking at China, I just read this article where they might have this massive population decline by 2045 because of their one-child policy and because of the things that they did years and years ago over there. So again, you're going to need the population to make babies if you're going to want a population to have a society. So that one, just logically. And now we're not having that many abortions, I wouldn't think. But what I want to get to and talk about on a more psychological or even emotional level is we talk about abortion and we think it's a women's issue, right? And in a large part it is, because women are the ones who are rearing the child or carrying the child in their womb, and they're often the people who are rearing the child once they're out of the womb. So it definitely is a woman's issue. But no one ever slipped, fell, landed on a dick, and got pregnant, okay? There's always two people that come together and make a child. They have sex and it ends up making a child, right? And when you have two people in a situation and only one of them is considered at the time. So right now, men are like, hey, you're not allowed to have a decision about it. You're not supposed to be, expressing your opinion about it. It's a women's issue. I look at that and I go, well, again, no one ever got pregnant on accident. You had to have an interaction with a male for you to end up being pregnant. So it's just generally, it's going to be it's going to be two people's issue, right? So that I look at as an interesting dynamic, because we have to, as a society, again, come together to be able to rear children. Women aren't going to be able to do it on their own. If you want to flip it and say, now give men the responsibility, men aren't going to be able to do it all on their own. But it brings me to an interesting point, is who are the biggest champions of abortion? Again, going back to what I just said, it's a women's issue. So women are out there saying, we want this right. And hey, more power to you. I understand that you want to be able to do certain things in your life as a woman, and maybe, getting pregnant puts a stop on a lot of that. And hey, if you want to make that decision, go ahead. But what I find interesting about it is this. The reason why men are willing to concede and say, yes, it's a women's issue, even though it's not. Like I said, there's no one who's ever accidentally gotten pregnant. Like, they didn't even know that, again, no one slipped, fell, and landed on a dick, all right? They had to have sexual intercourse. And you can say, well, what if it was rape? Or what if it was something that they regret? It's like, look, folks, you might be a product of regret. Are you going to then look back and say, hey, that should have went away? Like, this is how life happens, right? Emotions happen. You get attracted to someone and all of a sudden you're in bed. That's how we're here. Fate, whether you like it or not. Life is sticky, life is messy. And if you're going to bring up like a rape example, I would say that that's probably less than 1% of actual abortions. So the massive number of abortions happen between people. Yeah, maybe they get drunk or maybe they regret certain things, but they're willing to do this. It's not like someone's beating them over the head and then taking advantage of them. They're part of the process as it's going through. They're conscious of what they're doing. So when you take that in consideration, and again, you say, look, men are willing to even concede and say it's a women's issue, even though it's not, Why? The reason why men are willing to concede that and willing to give that responsibility away to women is because men aren't as connected to the children as the women. Think about it. Literally, women are connected to the child for 9 months while it's growing inside of them. They're physically connected. Then once it's born, they have all of these not endorphins, all these hormones that rush like oxytocin, and it connects the mom and the child together. And so once that child is born, there's this like immense need, and it even happens with the dad if he's in the operating, if he's in the room with the child being born. But the woman, I think it's a lot stronger. And so you have this like almost telekinetic, relationship where the mom understands even when the child's not talking yet and doing all this stuff, it knows what the child needs. Well, because again of that physical process of birthing the child, of carrying it in your womb, that connection is always going to be there. Whereas men, we don't have that connection, and we're hardwired to be more of the doers, going out into the world, going after dangerous things, taking risks, whereas the females are much more suited to the nurturing process, again, just by their nature, because they're nurturing the baby within them. So what happens when someone is 8 months pregnant? They can't sprint, they can't run, they can't fight. So that's why we have the man who's there, who's not rearing the child, it's not in his womb because he doesn't have a womb. He's out there to protect. So you have this balance between two. So because of that, when we now go into this modern world where we don't have to protect and we're not forced to sprint or do any of those types of things, it's just about making money and doing whatever. And that's why people want to have these equal lives, because it's not like it used to be. You don't need protection like you used to have. You have a house, you have a car, you have security systems, you have laws and regulations and rules and policemen and all these different things in society. So it's different now. I understand that. I get that. But your nature doesn't change just because society changes. It takes millions of years for our DNA and all these different things to change. Whereas we're living with society and abortion that's just happened. All this stuff has just happened. And when you have women who are hardwired to be the nurturers, the ones who are supposed to be taking care, the ones who are supposed to be saying, save the life, and they're out saying, no, it's okay to kill it. I'm proud. I hope it was fake, but someone sent me something that I said, I'm proud that I had an abortion. It's disgusting when you think about it, because if you talk to anyone who has who just has any bit of emotion or any bit of a brain, who's not a sociopath, and they've had an abortion is a horrible experience for the man and for the woman. Again, if they're normal people who have regular emotions and regular feelings and care about other people. And if they only care about themselves, then they're not gonna give a shit about killing a baby or doing any of that stuff. And again, I haven't even told you my view on it. I don't know if I'm for it. I don't know if I'm against it. Okay. I think it's an interesting dynamic, and especially with our society that's evolving and all of the other problems that we have, like we've discussed, it's a sticky issue. But when we talk about, again, being proud of it or being like, it's not a big deal, these people haven't gone through it, okay? They may have, but their mind has been warped about this. And this, again, gets me to come back to the whole point about societies breaking down, is when you have a society of people who don't care about life, when they don't care about rearing children, that's society. As much as you might want to say it's about businesses and it's about making money and it's about building roads and making things cheap for people to get it. If you don't have a population, you don't have a society. So all that stuff means nothing. It always comes back to survive long enough for you can be able to procreate. It's called fitness, sexual fitness in anthropology. If you're fit, you're sexually fit, that means you lived long enough to procreate and you procreated. You're sexually fit, you did your job for our species. Now, again, it's more complicated with our worlds today. But if we try to make things too complicated and get in our own heads and get away from our nature, you're not going to have a society anymore. And that's what I'm trying to bring to people's attention. It's interesting to me that the biggest champions of abortion are the people who also should be the biggest champions of nurturing. So it's a very weird position, because men are never going to step in and say, no, right? We can't let this happen because it's wrong. We're always going to take the easy way out, because it's not, we really want to stay away from that. We want to give the responsibility away. And it's not even in our nature to try to do all of that, right? It's just, again, it's our hard wiring to just be like, okay, you take care of it. Oh, now it's your decision. Fine. Make that difficult decision yourself. And so I look at that and I say, that is dangerous for society in the long term, because you're going to need the people who can actually have the babies. Again, men can't have the babies, whether you like it or not. We can't do it yet. So, and we're not as interested in rearing the children after they're born anyway. So it's like, we can't do it and we're not interested. Women are going to need to be the champions of keeping the society moving along, because guys will be distracted by freaking cars and video games, and they'll miss the opportunity to be sexually fit, literally. Why do you think women wear high heels and short skirts and makeup and all this stuff? They're trying to get our attention because guys are freaking stupid, okay? So again, when you have a society, when things are flipped upside down, and you have the people who should be doing the biggest work to try to keep society moving along and having babies and doing all that stuff and child rearing, and it's flipped, and hey, more power to you, women. You want to be miserable. You want to have no emotions about things. You want to be obsessed with work and lose sleep over it and have no friends. Welcome to the life of a male, okay? It's not fun. You're not giving up life that's shit to go have a better life of fornication and drugs, or like I said, like complete obsession about something where you don't have anything else life bound. There's no work-life balance because your life is completely work, or it's completely obsessed with some hobby that you're into. It's not balancing for the world. So you want to be part of that life? By all means, jump on in and enjoy it while you're there, because it's not going to be very enjoyable. Men are different than women. We're hardwired to do different things. Let us do that. Do your thing. Again, it's our nature. It's our nature. We can't try to infuse what we want out of things so much. We can, and we do a great job of it in the Western world. But again, when you try to do too much, when you overcomplicate things, that's when things start to break down. And that's what I'm seeing through this whole process. So although Roe v. Wade might get overturned, it doesn't mean that abortion is going to be illegal. It's going to be maybe different in different states and things like that, but it's going to be available en masse, and people are still going to be able to do it. But I look at the overarching theme of abortion and like I said, someone's coming out and saying, I'm proud of abortion. And I look at that and I say, this is not a good recipe for success for a society. So that's my thoughts on the subject. Until next time, I'll see you then.